Season's greetings, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of what is the very accelerated Gin Advent Calendar Challenge from Drinking Trends. Brought to you with the very kind support of the lovely people from Drinks by the Dram and their Gin Advent Calendar. So, it's accelerated because I'm starting late. I want to finish well before Christmas, so we're going to do 2 gins every day. We're on day 2. Gin number 1 of day 2 is this pretty little thing here, which is Ableforth's Bathtub Gin, bottled at 43.3% ABV. And first thing you'll notice about this is obviously it has a slight colour. I'm not sure how well it's coming up there, but I'm going to pour it into a little ISO nosing glass. And I think I might, I tried to get most of it in the glass. That'd be a good idea. There we go. So I think you can see it's just got a slight kind of very light straw tinge to it. And Bathtub Gin, people say, you know, it's a kind of gimmicky name, Bathtub Gin, but the reason I call it Bathtub Gin is actually very much to do with how it's made. Most gins, certainly most premium gins that you'll have, are distilled. London Dry Gin will be distilled with the botanicals in the copper pot still, along with a neutral spirit and some water, and then it's bottled without the addition of anything. Then you'll have something like distilled gin, for instance Hendrick's would be distilled gin because it goes through the same process as London Dry Gin, but they add essence of cucumber and essence of rose post distillation. Then you go into what's called compound gin, and compound gin for quite a long time in recent gin history was shorthand for crappy gin, because it was the cheapest way of producing gin. So it wasn't London Dry, it wasn't distilled. What they did is they would take oils or essences of the botanicals and they would add them to the spirit and compound them, which they simply mean infusing. Now, that was the case for a while, and then along came Bathtub Gin and kind of changed the game a little, because while they do infuse in a cold compound fashion, they don't. They put the actual botanicals in there and they steep each one. To the best of my knowledge, they steep them individually and then combine them afterwards. I could be slightly wrong on that. I'm no expert on Ableforth by any means. However, what I do know is that it produces an excellent gin, which up to the time I tried this, I didn't think that was possible in a cold compound process. So, on the nose. Punchy on the nose. It is 43.3. If you remember, a Salcombe gin that we had on day 1 was 44%. But this is quite spicy on the nose. It's very assertive, very robust. It stands up very well. It's kind of piney and resinous in a very kind of spruce forest, Christmas tree type of way, I suppose, which is quite appropriate. Cardamom and again, bright citrus, but there's an earthy spiciness going on here. So I'm gonna have a quick taste. Oh, that grabs hold, and it doesn't want to let go. Warmth, heat, and spice. Robust pine, lovely, fantastic. Now, usually what I do is I pour 5ml into the glass and the remaining 25ml into my gin and tonic. However, I think I did a little over pour, so rather than short pour myself and shortchange you by having an inaccurate comparison, I'm going to put 2 both back in there. You notice those little wax seals that you get on these little 3cl samples from Drinks by the Dram, which is quite nice. I think Ableforth actually has wax seals on its large 70cl bottles, if I'm not mistaken, along with a brown paper bag wrapping. Again, nice little thing, easy to write on, good for gifts. It is that time of year. So, how does it stand up in a gin and tonic? I like this. I like a lot, and I do have a big weakness for the more floral styles of gin, but this is pretty unapologetically robust, but there isn't a harsh attack with it. You do still get a bit of that cardamom, a bit of the kind of orange thing going on. Spiciness is far less to the fore than it was drinking the gin neat. Yeah, this is a pretty sophisticated gin, to be honest, for a cold compound gin, or for any gin really, but it's surprising it's that sophisticated as a cold compound. So yes, Ableforth's Bathtub gin at 43.3%. I suppose if you're the posher's Bathtub gin, if you're from the north, it's Bath, and if you're Irish, it's Bat. But whichever way you pronounce it, I like it. It's a lovely gin. So, cheers. Season's greetings, intrepid drinkers. Welcome to day 2, part 2 of the Drinking Trends Gin Advent Calendar Challenge, brought to you with the very kind support of the lovely people from Drinks by the Dram. As you can see, 4 holes in the calendar means that we are doing 2 drinks a day. It's an accelerated Advent Calendar Challenge, and day 4, Firkin Gin. 46% ABV. This is a cask aged gin. I'm not familiar with this gin. I haven't nosed it before or tasted it in any way. The wax seal is still on this one. Did a little bit of research online. It's made in Leith, and it is handcrafted in small batches apparently, and aged in what they call American oak whiskey barrels. Now I'm not sure if they mean American oak barrels that were designed for whiskey, or that they're but are actually virgin white American oak barrels, or that they're barrels that have previously held American whiskey, which would make them refill bourbon casks. If they're that, then that's going to add something very different to the flavour of that the gin is going to be extracting from the casks. Now, it does also say 4 times distilled. 4 times. I'd be very curious to understand why 4 times distilled, because maybe they distilled the grain spirit 3 times in a pot still and then redistilled with botanicals, or maybe they do. I'm not entirely sure. Number of distillations itself isn't a mark of quality of a gin or any spirit, to be honest. It's just means a different style. But yeah, if anybody from Firkin Gin is watching and they'd like to educate us on that, I'd absolutely love to find out a bit more about that. In the meantime, cracking the seal, 3cl bottle, gonna endeavour to pour just about 5ml in there. So again, the same as Bathtub gin that we looked at for the first one today. This got a yellow hue. This hue is a bit darker. Now Bathtub obviously gets its hue from the infusion process. When you distill something, it always distills to a clear spirit, clear liquid. So when you get a colour, that's something that's added post-distillation, either by artificial colouring or by a process. In this case, it's a process. Aging in casks does a number of things. It adds certain characters to a spirit. It'll add a colour, it'll add flavour, always it'll add a hint of vanilla. You get some light spices, depending on where the oak is from and what type of cask it is. If it's a European oak, you probably get tannins as well. If it's American oak, you get more kind of bananas and tropical fruits if it's a virgin cask. If it's a first fill ex-bourbon cask, then you are going to get some of the residual characters of the bourbon coming through. So that's enough of that, but I'm really interested to see what this smells like. So here we go. Smells like gin. Smells kind of smoky. It smells like the cask might actually not be an American oak cask, might be an Islay cask, an ex-Islay peated malts cask. Now I could be getting that totally wrong, but so aging gin was kind of something that wasn't really done until a few years ago. I think St. George were one of the first ones to do it. A great California distillery, very innovative guys. We did an interview with Lance Armstrong, one of our first interviews in the What I Do, What I Know series. I highly recommend it. He's a great guy, very interesting maverick in terms of what he does with spirits. I would be super surprised if there wasn't some sort of peated malt in the cask in this particular gin. But anyway, I could be wrong. I have been in the past. Yeah, that confirms it. There's some sort of Islay malt influence in the cask. So obviously, whatever I read on the website, I probably didn't pay enough attention to the American X whiskey casks. So This will, I'm guessing, have been an American virgin oak cask that held bourbon, then got sold to Scotland, where it held a peated malt, and then got used to age this gin. Now the aging process for this won't be very long. I've done a few experimentations with barrel aging myself in various different projects, and if you've got a reasonably high strength gin, this is 46%. If you're putting that into a cask, you're not going to be really want to age it for longer than a couple of weeks, because it's going to really absorb. Alcohol is a solvent; it will soak up flavors. And it's already soaked up. Well, it's almost kind of going into the mezcal type of flavor, because you got the vegetal and the resinous and the peated together. I'm going to definitely have another taste of this before it goes into gin and tonic. In fact, I'm not really sure what it's going to taste like in a gin and tonic. Okay, it's gin, but not as we know it. Very much not as we know it. So remnants go in there, and put 25ml going in on top of it. I have no idea what the recommended garnish is for a gin and tonic with Firkin gin. Firkin is an old name for a size of a cask or size of a barrel. You have these old terms like butt, puncheon, firkin, galleon. These are all various sizes of barrel. Okay. The little yellow hue is still there, a little tint. So that colour will be coming exclusively from the cask. No kind of peated malts on the nose, but it's strangely satisfying. I like it. I like things that kind of play around with your sense of anticipation of taste. And okay, this is going to be hugely embarrassing if the guys from Firkin Gin tell me that this wasn't an ex-peated malt cask, but I would lay dollars to donuts that it absolutely is. That's super interesting. I'm not sure if all the flavors are totally playing nicely together. They're kind of fighting against each other slightly, but that's not always a bad thing. Certainly very dynamic. I don't like peated malt whiskey in highball drinks as a rule. And this isn't a peated highball malt, it is an aged gin. But this works for me. This really does, actually. Gotta be honest, not sure if I've had more than 2 of these. But then again, I've already had 1 gin today, so it's probably not a bad idea that I'm stopping. And as well, a 46% ABV. But this is certainly a very nice drink to end the evening on. Very interesting indeed. If you are buying a Christmas present for someone who you know that likes gin but also likes peated malt whiskey, Firkin barrel aged, cask aged gin at 46% may just be the one for you. Cheers.